U.S. President Trump, welcoming the Palestinian president for the first time at the White House, gave his assurances that he will follow the tradition of U.S. presidents mitigating the decades-old conflict.
The Palestinians and Israelis must work together to reach an agreement that allows both peoples to live, worship, and thrive and prosper in peace.
Grateful for the warm welcome, Mahmoud Abbas expressed strong optimism for the U.S. president's ability to help make peace.
Mr. President, you have the determination and you have the desire to see it to fruition and become successful. And we, Mr. President, we are arriving at a new opportunity, a new horizon that would enable us to bring about peace in that regard.
Before the two leaders even met, Abbas laid down a marker, one he repeated in the joint statement. Israel must withdraw to borders in place before the 1967 Six-Day War and accept East Jerusalem as the capital of a Palestinian state if it wants peace.
Mr. President, it's about time for Israel to end its occupation of our people and of our land.
But President Trump had some markers of his own, demanding that the Palestinian Authority stop payments to Palestinians held in Israeli prisons and their families, and to rein in anti-Israel incitement by Palestinian media. While President Trump is declaredly pro-Israel, Palestinians believe he is the one president who might actually strike a deal.
The president's ability to connect with an individual, to work with them towards a shared goal, to have backroom diplomacy, is something that is going to continue to pay dividends and get results for this country.
Whether President Trump can be the one to succeed where so many other presidents have failed is an open question. But he promised today he will be dedicated to the task.
And I will do whatever is necessary to facilitate the agreement, to mediate, to arbitrate, anything they'd like to do. But I would love to be a mediator or an arbitrator or a facilitator, and we will get this done.
The Trump administration is reinforcing its support for Israel. In honor of Israel Independence Day, Vice President Mike Pence hosted a group of Jewish leaders at the White House Tuesday. Among those there were Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, Senator Orrin Hatch from Utah, and the U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. In his speech, the vice president talked about President Trump's deep love for Israel. Just last week, President Trump proclaimed the month of May as Jewish Heritage Month. Pence also spoke about moving the U.S. Embassy in Israel, a promise President Trump made on the campaign trail.
And the President of the United States, as we speak, is giving serious consideration to moving the American Embassy in Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Vice President Pence says Trump is committed to resolving the Israeli and Palestinian conflict and will always make the safety and security of Israel a top priority.
An online challenge in support of hunger-striking Palestinian prisoners has gone viral around the world. People have been posting videos of themselves downing a glass of salt water, which is something prisoners refusing food need to do to try and stay balanced. And more than 1,500 Palestinian detainees are staging a hunger strike in protest at the poor conditions they claim the Israeli authorities are keeping them in.
Viva Palestina!
A senior Iranian foreign ministry official has urged the international community to put pressure on Israel to join the non-proliferation treaty. Ghulam Hossein Dehqani expressed concern regarding the Israeli nuclear arsenal. Dehqani said Israel's nukes pose a threat to regional and global peace and security. He made the remarks at a conference on the nuclear non-proliferation treaty in Vienna. The Iranian official also criticized nuclear-armed countries for failing to abide by their commitments to dismantle the weapons of mass destruction. Israel, a non-NPT member, is believed to have up to 400 nuclear warheads in its arsenal.
Fox News has also learned Iran attempted to launch a cruise missile from a submarine in the Strait of Hormuz Tuesday. That, according to 2 U.S. officials, the missile test failed. A Yono-class midget submarine, like the one shown here, was used by Iran to conduct today's attempted missile launch. North Korea and Iran are the only 2 countries in the world that operate this type of submarine. It is not immediately clear if Tuesday's test was the first time Iran had attempted to launch a missile underwater from a submarine. In 2015, North Korea conducted a successful missile test from a submarine for the first time. There is more and more evidence, John, that North Korea and Iran's missile programs are linked.
U.S. Army General Raymond Thomas, commander of the U.S. Special Command, said the American Special Operations Forces are fully prepared to conduct an entire range of contingency operations against North Korea in a conflict situation. General Thomas was testifying before a congressional subcommittee on Tuesday, but did not give details about the kinds of operations he was referring to. According to American online news site Washington Free Beacon on Wednesday, the troops will be responsible for locating and destroying North Korean nuclear weapons and missile delivery systems, such as mobile missile launchers. According to the Beacon, there are over 8,000 U.S. Special Operations Forces members stationed in nearly 80 countries worldwide. The last rotational deployment of the Special Operations Forces to South Korea occurred back in February, when parts of the 1st Special Forces Group and the 75th Ranger Regiment participated in training drills with their South Korean counterparts.
Begin this hour with the U.S. military conducting a second test of an intercontinental ballistic missile just within 1 week of each other. The unarmed Minuteman III missile was launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base in Southern California. And according to the military command, it's sending a message of force to other nations. This latest launch had been reportedly planned for some time, but it took place amid escalating tension on the Korean peninsula.
Now, there are videos online, describing this launch and showing how the rocket goes up in the middle of the night. They say it was planned in advance, but there's actually very little question as to the timing of this, but we'll get to this a little bit later. I just want to say that it was launched from the Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. It flew 4,200 miles before splashing down near Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands, where one of the U.S. test fields is located. And as for the timing of it, we do know, of course, that there's a lot of tension now on the Korean peninsula. And judging by the statement from one of the U.S. military command, in fact, it's Colonel John Moss, head of the Air Force's 30th Space Wing, who said that these Minuteman launches are essential to verify the status of our national nuclear force and to demonstrate our national nuclear capabilities. End of quote. Well, judging by this statement alone, you can figure out where exactly this message was going to. Obviously, this message was going to Pyongyang, and the timing for this could hardly be considered coincidental.
North Korea has leveled unprecedented accusations against its ardent supporter China, warning Beijing to not try its patience or face its grave consequences. The official Korean Central News Agency has described Beijing's call on Pyongyang to stop its nuclear and missile tests as reckless remarks. The KCNA says nothing could shake North Korea's determination and that the country will not beg for the maintenance of a relationship with China. The warning comes amid tensions between the North and China, which is Pyongyang's main window to the outer world. China's state media have recently demanded North Korea to avoid making mistakes and abandon its nuclear programs. Officials in Beijing also urged both Pyongyang and the United States to exercise restraint after the U.S. sent its battleships to the Korean peninsula.
The Russian president says his country's relationship with Turkey has fully recovered after its recent crisis.
Что у нас есть возможность вот так вот в рабочем совершенно режиме встретиться, переговорить по ключевым вопросам двухстороннего взаимодействия и по основным проблемам международной повестки дня, в том числе по таким острым, как сирийский. Сам факт такого режима нашей совместной работы говорит о том, что российско-турецкие отношения приобретают особый характер, особый статус и в полном формате восстанавливаются.
Очень большая ответственность.
İnanıyorum ki Rusya ve Türkiye'nin burada atacağı adım bölgenin kaderini değiştirecektir.
One of the ways to strengthen the ceasefire regime is to create these safety zones or de-escalation zones. Yesterday I discussed this issue with President Trump. As far as I understand, the American side supports the idea.
According to Reuters, Islamic State militants are developing their own social media platform to avoid security crackdowns on their communications and propaganda. Europol director Rob Wainwright said the new online platform has been uncovered during a 48-hour operation against internet extremism last week. Wainwright told a security conference in London, within that operation, it was revealed ISIS was now developing its very own social media platform, its own part of the internet to run its agenda. Jihadists have often relied on mainstream social media platforms for online communications and to spread propaganda, with private channels on messaging app Telegram being especially popular over the past year.
CNET has reported that China's internet rules are about to get even tighter. China's internet regulator, the Cyberspace Administration of China, or CAC, announced newly updated regulations that will require online news broadcasters to be licensed by the government to publish news on the internet and social media platforms. The new rules are effective from June 1st. China is notorious for its tight grip on online content. It put in place a censorship firewall, commonly known as the Great Firewall, which blocks popular sites such as Google, Twitter, and Wikipedia, leaving Chinese internet users only with Chinese duplicates of the services, such as Baidu and Weibo.
Protested in Tokyo on Wednesday on the 70th anniversary of the enactment of Japan's pacifist constitution. They were protesting Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's plan on making the first ever revision to the post-war charter. The demonstrators gathered at the Tokyo Rinkai Disaster Prevention Park, vowing to defend the pacifist constitution, specifically Article 9, which states the Japanese people forever renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation. Speaking in a video message to celebrate the anniversary, Abe said he wanted the language in the revised constitution to mention Japan's self-defense forces. Major opposition parties are also against Abe's plan to revise the constitution.
Members of Pakistan's Border Action Team allegedly beheaded 2 Indian soldiers. Pakistani forces reportedly snuck about 250 meters into Indian territory in Kashmir on May 1st to carry out the attack. India alleges it was a pre-planned operation and that the beheadings happened while the Pakistani army provided cover with fire. India's Defense Minister Arun Jaitley said, quote, "This is a reprehensible and an inhuman act by our neighbor. Such acts don't even take place during war, let alone peace." The Times of India reports the Indian Army has promised, quote, appropriate retribution. Pakistani Army has denied responsibility for the beheadings and has asked India to present, quote, actionable evidence of Pakistani involvement. Denmark has banned 6 people it calls, quote, hate preachers. Denmark banned 5 Islamic clerics and 1 evangelical pastor on May 2nd from the United States, Canada, Saudi Arabia, and Syria. Danish Immigration and Integration Minister Inge Støjberg said, quote, the government will not accept that hate preachers come to Denmark to preach hatred against Danish society. Denmark passed legislation last year allowing the country to ban foreign religious figures who are believed to be a, quote, threat to public order. The banned evangelical pastor is Terry Jones, who has made headlines before for publicly burning copies of the Quran. The Immigration and Integration Ministry said in a statement the people being banned are, quote, traveling rabid religious preachers who try to undermine our democracy and fundamental values of freedom and human rights.
A new academic paper released earlier this spring has some discouraging news about Europe's experiment with mass immigration. The paper looks at 25 years of labor market data in Norway, and it finds that while they initially get jobs and assimilate into the nation's economy, immigrants from poor countries ultimately become less integrated over time. We've seen this in other countries as well. The longer migrants spend in Norway, the less likely they are to hold jobs and the more likely they are to be dependent upon government welfare. Katie Hopkins is a global columnist for DailyMail.com, and she joins us tonight. Katie, does this surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me at all. It's something we've seen here in Britain for a long time. I've always maintained multiculturalism doesn't work, that in fact what we end up with is a nation of ghettos. I think that's true here in the UK. And I think what we see is that migrants arrive, and typically because we now have so many economic migrants who haven't actually suffered war or endured real hardship, that they really want to create a country within a country. They don't see Islam as compatible with Western culture, Western values. So actually they would rather live alone, separate from our society. Certainly around 23% of British Muslims have said that they would prefer and look to live under Sharia law rather than any laws that we have here. So I certainly feel that when people talk about integration, for me, I always hear the word colonization, because I think that's what's happening across Europe as we have opened our arms and our borders and told everyone to come and effectively take over.
Authorities in France will be on high alert on Sunday for the decisive second round of the country's presidential election. The French Defense Ministry said 3,500 soldiers from the specialist task force Operation Sentinel will be patrolling the streets of the capital to guarantee the security of the French people as they decide on their next president, frontrunner centrist Emmanuel Macron or far-right leader Marine Le Pen. Both candidates are expected to face off in a final televised debate on Wednesday night.
Stephen Hawking continues to talk about the need for humans to colonize other planets to survive. He recently made the assertion in a documentary called Expedition New Earth, which is set to air on the BBC. According to The Telegraph, Hawking indicates that time is running out for Earth, and if humanity is to survive climate change, asteroid strikes, epidemics, and overpopulation, we will need to leave our planet and venture further afield. The program features him and two others traveling around to explore technologies, like plasma rockets, that could help with extraterrestrial habitation. The physicist has made similar assertions about the longevity of the human species before. Last November, during a speech at the Oxford Union, he said, "We must also continue to go into space for the future of humanity. I don't think we will survive another 1,000 years without escaping beyond our fragile planet." Nevertheless, he has still advocated for trying to help Earth and each other in the meantime, writing an op-ed for The Guardian in December. "Perhaps in a few hundred years we will have established human colonies amid the stars, but right now we only have one planet, and we need to work together to protect it." He added, "To do that, we need to break down, not build up, barriers within and between nations."
There's a possible breakthrough in the fight against HIV. Scientists on a team led by Temple University say they have used a recently developed gene editing technique to successfully remove the virus from lab mice. The gene editing tool is called CRISPR. It allows scientists to basically cut out and insert specific portions of DNA. That same technology was then used to successfully remove the HIV-infected DNA from the mice. Scientists are hailing this as a major breakthrough, but add they are still a long way off from a reliable cure.
The FBI chief, James Comey, has vented his anger at WikiLeaks, saying the whistleblower organization, well, it's not about good journalism, but simply it's about undermining the U.S.
In my view, a huge portion of WikiLeaks' activities has nothing to do with legitimate news gathering, informing the public, commenting on important public controversies, but is simply about releasing classified information to damage the United States of America. It's what I said to intelligence porn, just push it out in order to damage.
Now, the comments were made as the FBI director was questioned by senators at a Judiciary Committee hearing. During the 2016 U.S. election, the WikiLeaks released hacked emails from the account of Hillary Clinton's campaign chief. Former MI5 intelligence officer Annie Machon believes Comey's comments are part of an ongoing U.S. effort to prosecute WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange.
Next tonight, the deadly scene playing out on a college campus today. Gunshots at a Texas community college, then triggering a lockdown, sending students into hiding, fearing for their lives.
Tonight, chaos on North Lake College campus. It was just before noon when the gunfire erupted. The campus put on lockdown as police in tactical gear search for an active shooter. This math tutor saw it all.
A girl was sitting in front on the chair and a guy standing in front of her. I saw the shot 3 times. She shot her.
Some students hunkering down, turning off lights in classrooms. Others trying to escape.
I knew it was gunshots. There's no other way. The staff tried to get us, obviously to stay inside, but I just ran.
One student recording the ordeal as he was evacuated.
Hands up. Hands on your head.
An hour later, police giving the all clear.
We still are on the premise that this is a murder-suicide situation.
Tonight, police trying to determine the relationship between the suspect and the victim and what led up to this deadly scene.
Police saying the two bodies were found in separate locations, and right now they're scouring the campus-wide security cameras for more information.
We're continuing to keep a close eye on the severe weather in Missouri. Neighborhoods along the Merrimack River, already damaged from weekend storms, are bracing for even more rain today, and this weather has turned deadly. The weekend flooding claimed several lives and forced hundreds of evacuations and rescues.
Right now, Anne Marie, it's just raining right now, and that's doing absolutely nothing but aggravating the rising waters and also people here in Valley Park. I want to show you this. This is a highway. This is Route 141. It looks like a lake. Roads are like rivers. Streets are like streams. Take a look at that Taco Bell off in the distance. Water surrounding it. There is also a stop sign down below. The water is almost right underneath the letters of that stop sign. These are incredible images we're seeing this morning. Walk over a little bit to my left here. There's also a Steak and Shake. There were sandbags. There was a huge sandbag wall around that restaurant just 24 hours ago. You can see those sandbags have failed this morning. Water really just overtaken the restaurant here. If my photographer can pan a little bit further to my left, you see these roadway signs. You also see this stoplight. It looks like it's buried in the water. That's the reality. That's what people are dealing with here in Valley Park. All the way across to the left here, Highway 44 runs, Interstate 44 runs across Route 141. You can see the bridge there. Typically, we can see through that bridge. The water has completely covered that up. That is what we're seeing here in Valley Park this morning. And with these waters continuing to come down here in the morning, that's also adding even more stress to the waters out here, Anne Marie.
After a lightning strike killed more than 30 of his dairy cows, Jared Blackwelder and his wife found the cows lying lifeless in the pasture after severe weather hit the area. Blackwelder estimates each cow was worth about $2,000, estimating a total loss of nearly $60,000.
The former Florida State football player who made friends with an autistic boy during a school visit is headed to the NFL.
Rudolph to the 10
Wide receiver Travis Rudolph signed with the New York Giants as an undrafted free agent, and Bo Paskey was there with him on draft day. Last year, a photo of Rudolph sitting with the sixth grader was shared by the child's mother. Her son was eating alone in the school cafeteria, and she was touched and grateful Rudolph chose to sit with him that day. The photo got a lot of attention, and the two have since become close friends.
It's my man Bo right here.
Especially after FSU treated the Paskeys to a game and gave Bo his own jersey.
And a touchdown! Travis Rudolph!
Even though Rudolph wasn't drafted, he's looking forward to working with the Giants and proving himself in the league. And his buddy Bo will be there cheering him on the whole way.